Introducing the JK Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the JK Podcast. We are here with another episode, and get ready for this upcoming week. We're going to have like a ton of episodes since I'm on spring break right now, so I got plenty of time, so I'm excited. And I'm excited for today's episode. We are here with Ben Clark, who is an influencer, personal coach with 161,000 followers on Instagram. Ben, how you doing today, man?
Doing very well, brother. Stoked to be here, man. I know we've been talking about making this happen for a while, so love having these conversations. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, man. I've watched a lot of your content. I like how your content is just you explain things so clearly. It's really easy to understand how to get your message across with your content. So I really like your content for that. I can see why you have such a large following there as well. When did you get started with kind of this content and self-improvement stuff?
Yeah, so my self-improvement journey really started probably 3-ish years ago. It really started when COVID hit. I'd been struggling with social anxiety for a while. There was a period in college where I had felt pretty depressed in my life. And I finally, like, as I was graduating college, I started just fiending for more, like knowing that I was really meant for more. And COVID was just a beautiful opportunity to take some time away from the external world and go into the internal world and really dive into self-improvement, self-development. And it's been a journey since then. And I started posting on social media last year, right around January timeline. I started 75 Hard, and my friend pushed me to do it. He was like, dude, the conversations we have, man, the people in the world need to hear the things that you're talking about. And I was totally uncomfortable. I was totally scared to do it. What are people going to think of me? So I was just like, fuck it. And I did it. And man, over a year later and look where I'm at now, it's been pretty awesome. So that was kind of the start of my journey.
Yeah, it's really hard to kind of examine like what kind of got you started, because there's so many different things that are thrown on like that could get you started in that. And like for me, I don't even remember like exactly what got me started. There wasn't like oh, a heartbreak or anything magical that happened. No, it just happened. Like my light bulb click and I just got started. But it's always interesting to hear how people kind of get started with their self-improvement journey. Like you mentioned, you started 75 Hard, which I've never done personally, but it's interesting that you mentioned that because I've been seeing a lot more people doing that now. It's kind of cool. Could you explain a little bit more about 75 Hard?
For sure. Yeah. So 75 Hard, I think it's Andy Frisella created the challenge. And it's really a challenge about discipline. It's a challenge about getting kind of out of your own head and doing something that's really difficult. And last year, so it was like November timeline. Someone popped up on my Instagram talking about it, and I'd never heard of it. And I remember immediately being like, damn, that's what I need. Discipline. That was like the missing link in like all of the self-improvement things that I've been working on and the self-discovery. But it was that discipline of really just sticking to the hard things. And I remember immediately watching that video and being like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. This video showed up for a reason. And then immediately after that was like all of this fear. I can't do that. That's 75 days. No alcohol for 75 days. So if you're not familiar, it's like it was no alcohol. It's like drink 3 liters of water a day, workout like 2 45-minute workouts a day, and some read nonfiction, a couple other things. And I just immediately was like, what if I fail? I can't do that. Like, how am I, what if I tell people that I'm going to do it and then I don't finish it? What are people going to think of me? It was like all of those limiting beliefs started coming up. And I just remember in December always having this conflict of like, I'm supposed to do this. Like, I need to do this. This is the next step in my journey. And then this other voice, it's like the devil and the angel sitting on your shoulders. It's a real thing. That fear, just like, dude, don't do it. You're going to fail. You're going to mess up. People are going to judge you. And so what I ended up doing was I kind of I manipulated the habits a little bit in the sense that instead of doing 2 workouts a day for 45 minutes, it was like I just needed an hour and a half of deliberate movement a day. If it was stretching, if it was walking, whatever. And then I added some like cold shower. I added a couple little things in there, meditation. And then I went all in and I posted it on social media. And I posted it on my story. And this was right when I was like, I hadn't even downloaded TikTok before. And I was
Mhm.
like, all right, I'm going to download TikTok and I'm going to commit to posting every single day during this challenge. That's going to hold me accountable. That's going to make it really uncomfortable and give this outward, like, this piece that of people watching me and something exciting to try. And so it was a totally different commitment than I'd ever made in my life of like really getting out there. And it changed the game, dude. Like 75 hard, I think was one of the biggest turning points in my what I'm doing now. Like I don't think I would be here right now if I hadn't started 75 hard. And we could go into kind of some reasons why I believe that if you're curious. But yeah, that's kind of the overall story of how I got started into it and made it happen.
Mm. Yeah, I like how things like that, like certain challenges and certain events or certain things you see online influence you in such a way. And I see a lot more people doing that. Like I've been seeing that pop up on my For You page like constantly of people starting this challenge. And it's really cool to see how they like start off like they're new to it and then they end off like on that last day. It's like crazy to see the progress they've made. But yeah, as you mentioned, during that is social anxiety or kind of fear of putting yourself out there on a pedestal, you could say, and
Mm.
showing yourself to the world, especially doing the certain things. Um, how long would you say that you've somewhat had problems with social anxiety in the past?
Yeah, when I think it goes all the way back into high school and even grade school that I can really remember. But at the time, I never really knew it. I never thought it was I'm socially anxious or anything like that or felt like I wasn't enough. Like I don't think it was never like a conscious recognition in my mind. But I mean, when I go back to even grade school, I always remember feeling like I was comparing myself to other people, and I was always feeling like I had to prove myself, or I was the nice guy. That was really my mode of seeking validation, being a people pleaser, always
Mm,
doing what's right, being the teacher's pet, first to volunteer. Always like it was in that I think really was this underlying that was the social anxiety, that was this lack of this feeling of not being enough, and it definitely just proliferated from grade school into high school a little bit. But I had a tribe in high school, like I had a good group of friends, but I never felt like I fit in with the cool kids as much. Like I was always like I felt like I was an outsider trying to fit in, even though I could tell like a lot of people liked me. It was just like I didn't feel like they did,
mm,
even though people did, if that makes sense. It was all like in my own head. And then that proliferated into college. When I got to college, this is when it really started getting a lot worse. And I started noticing, wow, I'm socially anxious for sure. This is not good. This doesn't feel good. It's making me feel less than all the time. And that was really, you get into the college environment and everyone's partying, drinking, frat guys, sorority girls, like going to the bars, all this stuff. Sure, it was fun. Like I did some of that stuff, but it never felt like me. Like it felt like I was always trying to fit in, trying to be cooler than I was or something like that. So I always felt totally misaligned. Like I was not in control of my life. The need to like fit in was in control. And then that led into a depression. And then later in college, I slowly started finding an even closer tribe, and that definitely helped. But man, when you really look at it, especially from what I know now, I look at my life and I do a lot of introspection, self-reflection. I see the behaviors, and that's a big part in that journey of really overcoming it and stepping into your most confident self.
mm. Yeah, for me, I have always kind of been a shy person in a way. I've moved so many times in my life that I had to change schools so many different times. Recently, I've moved to Utah. I was born here. This is my third time moving here, and
Mm,
and started a new school. I'm a junior high school, and it's just like like when I got here, I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know any of these people. I don't know how I'm supposed to start talking to these people. I don't know how I'm supposed to fit in with these people. And eventually it just naturally happened. But still I have that that anxiousness, like if the teacher's gonna call on me, what am I gonna say? What am I gonna do during my presentation? Stuff like that. And I think recently, especially with the younger generation, it's starting to occur. Like many people are becoming anxious. Why do you think that might be? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is the rise of the internet and social media. And
Mm,
to be honest, I don't think the internet, I don't think social media, I don't think it's a bad thing, right? And, and even then it's like I'm labeling it as bad or good, right? It just is what it is. It's really how we use it. But I think the more that, especially my understanding of really what's happening in our lives and how we're living from this place of fear, this kind of false of this illusion part of ourselves that is just trying to survive. Because that's such a strong part of our human biology and our evolutionary biology, when we get into social media and we have billions of people looking at each other and where everyone's getting put on a pedestal, right? We all start to think this is the standard for what's beautiful. This is the standard for what success is. This is freedom. This is what cool is. Like all of these things. And then it's like we are all just a bunch of creatures doing our own thing on this planet. And then here we are creating this label to something, and then everyone looks at that like that's the thing. And so anytime a kid, especially like young kids growing up, when we got 5-year-olds on iPads and phones
yeah.
nowadays.
Oh my
My
God.
I think I was the last generation where like Snapchat came out when I was in seventh grade. I was like just on the edge of that, and so Snapchat was totally new. And but now it's like, man, it just gets younger and younger. And so I think it's that constant comparison, constant looking at what is supposed to be the standard for all these things in our lives, and then we look at ourselves and we all have insecurities, and then they just get amplified when that happens, and we think,
Yeah.
man, I'm not enough. What if and then we get into school system. I might could go in on this stuff. We're sitting in class and it's like you got to say the right thing, or else everyone in class could think, "Oh, you're the dumb one." Whatever. It's like, no, it's just this perception that we've created. So I think that's contributing to a lot of it. But what's awesome too is I want to touch on is I'm super optimistic about what's happening right now. So many people like
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do, what Ben Fogelgreen's trying to do, all the people that you're having on this podcast, man, what you're trying to do. We're waking up, right? And we got a lot more people that are connecting to this side of us and helping people understand what we're really going through. And I think it's a really exciting time to be alive.
hmm There's a new age approaching, I feel like, that a lot of people in my shoes, a younger person, are starting to like see, content, especially on social media. I think social media has influenced it a lot to kind of wake people up and say, hey, I need to start doing this instead. And sure, there's still that group of people out there that aren't really there yet. They haven't really had that light bulb click, as I like to say. It's interesting, and I'm really excited to see the future because I think it can be there could be a lot of positives in the negative. In the
Mm.
future, there's a lot of a lot of stuff. I can't predict the future, obviously, but there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen, and I like to see how we're seeing so many people, especially at a young age, start to open their eyes a little bit and start to get on that new wave of just improving themselves.
Big time, man. And did you say you're a junior in high school?
Yes.
Dude, like, I mean, I just want to like pause there for a second because, like, shout out to you, brother. Like, dude, I mean, it's incredible to see how many younger kids too that are starting to see these things, man. For me to be able to have a conversation with you about this stuff and it resonate, like, and I'm sure you've found it's rare to find people that are
Yeah.
really like trying to step out of kind of, for lack of a better term, the matrix, right? And step into something really beautiful in life. And so it's cool to see young people, man. And for all the people that are listening to this, I'm sure you got a lot of young kids that are following you. Like, I'm sure, like, look at this guy, what he's doing and creating, and it's just like he's just doing what he can, right? You're still in high school, and it's like you got a busy schedule, but it's just about starting to commit to making some things happen in your life and taking small steps. And so yeah, the more people that we have that are doing these things, the more that we see. It's like the 4 minute mile, right? So I don't know if you're
Mhm.
familiar with the story of the 4 minute mile and how like in the 1950s it was like humans still thought breaking 4 minutes was impossible for a human to run, that the heart just couldn't even work that hard to make that happen. And then in like 1950, I don't know, 55 or something, a man named Roger Bannister broke the 4 minute mile in like rough conditions. They said it would have to be perfect. You'd have to have a sunny day on a hard track and all this. And he did it on a cloudy day with a small crowd on gravel. And then as
Mhm.
soon as he broke it, more people started breaking it. A month later, 2 months later, 5 months later, and now it's like 1,600 people have run sub 4, right? When people thought that was impossible. So in today's day and age, and it's like the more we see people that are breaking free from the system or breaking free from that 9 to 5 structure or breaking free from limiting beliefs of I'm not enough, the more we empower more people, and it just becomes a cascade of exponential growth. So
Mhm.
definitely exciting.
Yeah, there's a really, really low ceiling that's put just placed there by, you could say whoever it is, the government, or you could say the school system, whatever you want to say. There's different limits, different ceilings set by different people in their life. And it's interesting because we're seeing that ceiling change completely. People are really, really blowing out of the water just the expectations that people put on them. And it's really exciting. I'm excited to see, in my school, for example, there's a lot of, you have the different kind of cliques in a way, you have the jocks in a way, and you have these people, you have these people, these people. I've tried to talk with a lot of people to see what their mindset's like, and I can hear conversations from them and see what their mindset is like. I've only found a very, very small few of people that are actually interested in improving themselves. Because everyone at that age is just interested in having fun and doing what teenagers do. So
Yeah.
it's a very small percentage of people that are trying to make it, that are trying to exceed in life.
Big time. And I think there's a balance, right? There, like, balance is such an overused word nowadays. It's hard to like, what does balance mean, right? But I think there's definitely a balance of like, go so hard, like so much discipline, work, 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 self-improvement, all that. But also like recognizing too when we're young, like we're supposed to try different stupid shit. We're supposed to, just live and try different things, right? And enjoy that. But I think the underlying piece is the intention of growth, the intention
Mm,
of do I believe that I can create something amazing? And am I at least moving in that direction 1% more each day? And yeah, it's exciting to see how that's gonna continue to extrapolate in society.
hmm Yeah, as you mentioned, there's a lot of content as well on the social media side that is pushing the agenda of just you have to work 24/7 and you cannot stop. Like there's no limit. You have to be working and you can only get 1 hour of sleep. If you sleep, then you're weird. Something like there's a lot of expectation with social media. I think that there's a large agenda of just people trying to just push out this just working every single time, every single
Mm,
second. And it's very difficult because people really need to just, see through that content. It's hard, but you need to kind of see through that content and just kind of focus and think like, okay, is this reality? Can I actually do this like every single second? And it's really like if we could work 24/7, like everyone would be like rich and everyone would be successful. But in reality, you need rest. Rest is important. You
mm.
need time to, go outside and just walk or talk with family or spend time with others. It's really important, and people kind of brush that under the rug.
Big time. And I think like there's the first two people that really come to mind when you mention like that work, 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 grind type mindset is David Goggins and Andy Frisella,
Hmm.
right? I mean, and I think like they're very much just like you're not working hard enough. You got to work harder, push yourself harder, and like sure, I see that that's an important side of doing amazing things and being successful. You got to work hard, that's for sure. But I think people like Andy Frisella, people like David Goggins, I think they exist really to be an example of like what's possible, like what the human body, what the mind can really do. But man, I think we have this stigma then that becomes a dangerous game of this stigma that like I can't be successful if I don't work that hard. And then that ego comes in and this fear and says, "Well, I don't want to live like David Goggins. I don't want to run 200 miles a week and have all these knee surgeries and constantly be screaming at everyone. Like I don't want to live like that." So then people don't even try, you know? And so I think that there's something to be said for when you really connect with your purpose in life, when you really connect with your intuition, this like guiding force within you, and you just slow down and you start just forgiving things, loving things, accepting things, and just working through things and just growing. I think we get into this really beautiful flow of life where success actually happens a lot easier. It
Mm.
still takes work, right? This is gets in, we like you get into like manifesting the law of attraction and all the kind of like keywords almost nowadays that are really overused, but I think have a lot of validity. But you get into like that realm of like being a little bit like you can just, it's like the way that I like to think about it is going into a river, right? You could sit in the river and you could try to swim upstream as hard as you can because you're trying to get to whatever this gold pot at the top of the river and you're just working and you're exhausted and you feel like that's the only way. Or you could just let go and just relax your body and you float down the river and the river twists and turns. You don't know exactly where it's going to go. You get caught in like an eddy or a heavy current and you got to swim out back into the middle. Sometimes you hit a stick, you hit a log and you got to adjust yourself. But what happens when you just relax is you end up in the ocean, the most abundant of all life, right? Besides maybe the rainforest. But just as like an analogy, you get out and it's like you get into this beautiful space where all you ever desired is already there. And it just
Mm.
took you relaxing and learning and growing and just being a part rather than fighting it. So
Mhm.
I think there's really something to be said for that. And there's a lot of people that are in this space that I hear talking about it that have done amazing things in their life. Um, and so, yeah, it's definitely the balance. But at the same time, I've been really deeply inspired by Goggins, right? You see what
Oh
that
yeah.
man does, and you're like, wow, I could do so much. So, and then you see like a monk like in the forest that's doing nothing but is super at peace and all that. It's like, okay, let's find let's find that in between and let's go with that.
Hmm. I agree. I completely agree. Yeah, I've always seen. I read David Goggins' book. I'm a really big fan of him as well. And I like how people like him can kind of show you like, oh, my ceiling is not even close to what I can actually do. It really shows like what you're capable of, as you mentioned. And it really helps people kind of perceive that and be like, hey, I can do that too. He's human, I'm human. I can get there if I really wanted to. I don't want to break both my kneecaps though, but that's something you could do if you wanted to. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people and there's a lot of influence that people can get to help them. And I like the analogy that you used with the river and just kind of letting go in a way to rest
Mm.
and still kind of working, but resting. And one of which part of that is facing failure, and failure is so difficult. For me, it's been one of the hardest things as well.
Mm.
Is kind of dealing with failure or failing in something. And failure is just a weird word because like can't really just say, "Oh, I failed." But there's a good way people put it is saying that the people that fail are the people that don't even try. And
Mm.
the people that don't even try, those are the people that have failed because they never even try to live up to what they're trying to do.
Yeah, man. Failure it's one that holds a lot of people back from a lot of things, right? And failure, I agree, it has so many different like connotations to it. Like, what if I get rejected? That's a failure. What if I start a business and I don't make any money? That's a failure. What if I post on social media and it gets 10 views and I wanted 100 views? That's a failure, right? And so, but it's like, notice how all of that was like a perception of what failure is. So at the end of the day, failure, overcoming failure is just like you were saying there, it's redefining what failure actually is. Failure is simply like, I almost don't even like the word failure because it
Yeah.
immediately, like, we have such a strong connotation to failure as a bad thing. But as soon as you say failure, it triggers the ego part of us that says, whoa, okay, on the lookout, failure's around, like, I got to start watching out. And so, when we think about failure, we think like it's a bad thing, right? Immediately, connotation there. It's a bad thing, it's a label.
Yeah.
And, but what failure really is just it it's just an opportunity to learn. It's just a little data point. It's a little piece of the puzzle. You can't complete a puzzle if you don't have the pieces, right? Well, you how do you have anything if you haven't started and you don't have data to actually make it happen? Like, and the way that I like to think about, for the most part, the top 5% of people, the top 1%, they're not the people that were the smartest or necessarily worked the hardest or any of these things. Like, they're the people that just didn't give up. They just kept trying. They just kept taking risks. They just kept going. And like, success doesn't exist without failure. Success doesn't exist without getting things wrong or not, it not turning out exactly as you planned. Success exists within that process of you doing things and then iterating on it, reflecting what worked, what didn't, and then moving on. And so, I've really developed a really, I think, healthy relationship with failure. I'm not perfect by any means, but when I think failure, like, there's nothing that, like, my definition of it, my perception of it is success. Ah, I failed at something. Great. That means I'm on my way to success. So it's like I've shifted it so deeply in kind of like to my core that now I operate from that place. And that's, a lot of the way that I talk then empowers, especially, people that watch my content, people that I work with one on one. Like, they hear the way that I talk about these things, and it helps people shift their perception in a way that then empowers them to start stepping out. We all have our own process. We all have to work through our own little things. But I think the more that I've been able to do that myself, now I communicate from this place of like, failure is not a real thing. It's only, like you said, you only fail if you didn't even try. And so, yeah, I think it's a big hurdle for people, but it's amazing how possible it is to really overcome if you're committed to making it happen.
Hmm. Yeah, the people that perceive failure as a terrible negative thing, those people kind of get pushed down in the mud in a way.
Mm.
And the people that can perceive things differently, whether it be failure, whether it be an obstacle, whether it be a problem or anything, the way that you perceive that is how it affects you. If you see it as a negative thing, that's how you get pushed down. If you see it as a positive, as an opportunity for you to grow, that's where you gain from it. But why do you think people have such a strong, connotation as failure and obstacles as a really negative thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of two big parts to it. One is like we were talking about earlier, this idea of comparison, right? I watched this person start a business and they were successful, but then I started mine and I wasn't. That's
Hmm.
so bad. Like, I'm not good enough, all that. It's like, okay, again, we're all on a different path. They have a different business than you. They have a different way of communicating. They have different life experiences. And so I think that's one is just like, what and then so it's like, what will I think of myself when I do that? I'm gonna be so down on myself. Then also, what's everyone else gonna look at me and think, oh, he tried and he failed, right? It's terrifying when I quit my job and started my own business. Like, it's scary when you're like, I'm trying to, tell my family and my parents, like, this is what I'm doing, like, all this. And they were so supportive, but they were afraid for me too, right? And then it's like there's that part of me that's like, what if I fail and they were right and I was wrong? Then I'm going to feel like so, bad about myself. And so there's an underlying fear of that failure piece. But I think a big part of it too is that underlying fear is hardwired in our biology, right? It's part of our an evolutionary mechanism to keep us alive. It's the ego. The
Hmm.
ego evolved to keep us alive, not to keep us happy. It evolved so that when we're on the savannah, where our default mode is to be fear based, a little bit kind of sketchy of what's going on, because if we weren't and a lion came around the corner, what are we going to do, right? We're going to just get eaten by the lion. So if
Yeah.
we have this natural tendency to be a little bit afraid, we're careful. And then also it allows us to be able to reaffirm those circumstances where a lion comes around the corner. Great. Okay, that happened this time. So then my brain's going to go immediately with a confirmation bias. It's going to next time expect that that thing might happen again. So I'm going to naturally avoid that thing, right? And so that's all happening as a part of our biology and our brain. But that's all this ego self. It's not
Yeah.
actually our true self. We're the one that's underlying it, that's watching it all happen. And so without people realizing that who our true self really is, we are going to continue to be driven by the ego, which only exists in fear and lack. The ego actually doesn't have any love to it or doesn't have any abundance to it. That's your true self. Whenever you feel love, whenever you feel gratitude, you feel abundance in your life, that's your true self that's coming in. And then we got that's what I talked about earlier in the 75 hard thing, right? The devil and the angel. This is what I meant to do. I'm supposed to do this. No, don't do it. Self ego, right? And so I think that's a big driver. And so part of what I'm doing in terms of, helping people build confidence, I call it conscious confidence. It's really connecting with our true self so we can step outside of the illusion of the ego and really help people create from this place of love and abundance in their life. And so, yeah, to answer the question, I think a lot of it is just an evolutionary default of fear.
Hmm. Yeah. For me, everyone has their own fears, by the way. Everyone has their own fears of failure in a way. But for me, deeply, is I'm so scared and feared of the future of myself. And,
Mm,
I live presently. I live every day as an opportunity to grow and to reach what I want to do. But it's that constant fear of just not making it, of not achieving that big goal that you've set 10 years, 15 years down your lifetime. And that's a constant fear that I have that I know many other people combat and have problems with. How do you think people can possibly get out of that idea?
yeah, I think again, there's a couple parts here. One is first to realize and remind yourself that like all of this to be said, like if fear is an illusion, it's part of the ego, like all this, recognize that it's okay to feel fear, right?
Mhm.
Because that's a part of us, and it's meant we're like that's an important part of who we are as a human being, right? To have some of that fear, and fear can be a really powerful driver, right? Like I'm afraid of not being successful, so I'm gonna work to make that happen. But we can get caught in the trap of like, oh, I'm never gonna be okay if I don't achieve these great things. So then we're constantly in this like on this treadmill of like working for that thing because that's what's going to get us fulfillment in life. And I think part of it, man, it comes with time. Like
Yeah.
honestly, coming with time and consistency. Showing up for yourself consistently and having conversations like this, surrounding yourself by other people that are successful, you start to just soak in this sense of like, I'm doing the right things. Like
Yeah.
I'm showing up for myself and you and you see other people that like have done the same things that you're doing, you're like, okay, if I just keep on this path, like I'm gonna fail 100 more times, but look at what I've done in the past. And so here's another big part is self-reflection and introspection. This is so important for all areas of our life if we're trying to feel better, if we're trying to overcome little things, we want to be confident in ourselves. Look back, man. Like go back a year in time and just say, what was I doing? How did I think about life? What were the outcomes that I had? How did I feel? What were the conversations that I was having? And then go 6 months and then go right now. And you're like, damn, I've grown so much between then and now. Okay, I just keep this going. And like, I think for me, that has been like the key. It's like, okay, I know that I'm constantly trying to grow. I know that I see failure as a learning experience. Okay, great. As long as I hold on to those and get 1% better every day, success is inevitable. It would be impossible for me not to fail. And
Hmm.
like, there's some sense of like that delusional confidence, I guess, but like, I see it so deeply in myself as like a knowing and like a trust that, man, like, the universe is not like we're here. There's nothing that's actually like trying to like the universe wants us to achieve success. It wants us to bring into the world the abundance that we truly are, the love that we truly are. So it's like, okay, great. I've got this huge thing the universe is 150 billion light years across. It's all just an essence of energy. That thing wants me to achieve. That thing that this giant energy force wants me to be successful. Sick. Okay. I'm going to do the best I can and I'm going to allow that thing to push me, right? And that has given me so much confidence in the times where I feel like, man, I'm not doing enough. I'm gonna mess up. Like this month, I plan to make this much or have these many clients come on. Okay, wait, hold on, slow down. I'm working with infinite potential, but I'm in a finite body.
Mhm.
Okay, I got to give myself some credit. And so I think those perspective shifts can really help people do it. And then the actions are keep showing up for yourself and look back and do some introspection and watch your growth happen.
Dude, that's spot on. Like when I recently I think it was this weekend. I write down, try to write down every single day, but some days I miss it. Is I write down in a journal and just write down what happened that day, and I've been doing this since maybe September, October-ish. And once I like looked back, I was like, I'm gonna look back and see what I was thinking back then in September 12th or whatever. And it's just such a different mindset that I had compared to what I have now. It's just thinking like why was I even worried about that? Like that wasn't even the biggest like thing that I had to deal with in my entire life. Like why was I so worried about that? And it's so interesting because once you look back and see the mountain that you've scaled, you build a lot of confidence in yourself and say, "Hey, I'm here now and look where I am on this mountain. I'm not at this big peak because I don't think there's a peak. It just keeps going. But when you look back and just see the progress you've made, it's a great feeling and it really shows to you. It's proof in a way that you have improved, that something has happened, that you've made a significant positive change in your life. And one more thing to add on to that is recently, like I said, I'm a junior in high school. I had to take the ACT,
Mm.
and I was so worried. I honestly it was a good lesson to me as well because I didn't really study. I didn't really study on it. I was like, it's ACT. I'll go in there, take the test, come back. It's literally a couple hours. You know, that was my thought process going into it. Recently got my scores back. I got like a 20, which is meh. It's alright. But I realized I told myself like if I did study in the past, if I did have a different mindset going into that, I probably would have got a better score. I probably would have done a lot better on it. So it's constantly being aware of what lessons you've learned in the past and also reflecting on the mountain you've scaled.
Dude, hit the nail on the head. And that was the other piece that I wanted to like I was gonna jump in there like that you hit it. You hit exactly what I was gonna say is going back and not only you're looking at the growth and you're looking at the wins that you've been getting, but you also learn from the
Yeah.
things that you maybe didn't think about at the time. You say, "Oh, like you go back in a journal and you're like, "Damn, I'm still like I just wrote in my journal today the same thing I did 6 months ago that I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to start working out consistently, whatever." And you're like, "Okay, 6 months have gone by and I'm still doing the same thing. Let's change it up a little bit. We got to shift something. That's clearly something that I desire to do. And by doing that, you allow yourself to step again. It's like stepping out from this caught in your head, just feeling guilty about it with yourself, from being like a friend that says, "Wow, man, you said that you were going to do that 6 months ago. You're still saying it. What's going on here? Like, let's make it happen." Oh, okay, great. Now you see it from a new perspective. And that's like and then right there, then you change something, you adjust, and then you try again, and then it goes better than last time. Boom. Now you've got a win, and that reinforces, oh, when I reflect and I do the work, I get better results, and then you keep in that cycle. And so two things that really come to mind here is one is this is something that I've learned from Tony Robbins. It's called the momentum loop, and I share this with my one-on-one clients as well. So it's a loop of there's four parts to the loop. One is seeing the potential in something. And then we see the potential, and then we take action. And then we take action, we get a result. We get a result, and then from there, we get some sort of belief, right? It could be a negative belief or a positive belief in that. And then whatever happens there is what's going to drive the potential and stay in this loop. And so when we see potential for something that I could accomplish, we take action towards that, and then we get a result and we fail at it. It's not as good as we thought. Where our beliefs lie is this is the really important piece. Well, action's important too. It's very important. But this is an important piece. Do I think, oh, I'm a failure, I didn't do it, right? So now my potential is I can't do it again. I'm not good enough. And then what happens? We stop the action piece and then we don't get anything else, right? Or we look at that result and we say, damn, okay, it got better. Like I saw the potential for it to improve. It did get better. Now I see more potential. Now I take action. And we get caught in this beautiful loop of momentum that just carries us. The other piece is just like an example from my life that's similar to like the ACT kind of story there is when I was in college, my first semester of college, so growing up, I was always in like the accelerated math programs. I was always good at math. And when I got like high school, I was a step ahead in math, and I got to college, calculus kicked my ass so bad. Like I got a C minus in the class. I think my professor had bumped me up like a percent so that I didn't fail it, like because it was like if you get a D, you have to retake it. So I swear he bumped me up to let me like get through. And I looked back and it was like, what were the things that were creating that within myself? Like how did I create that result for myself? I barely studied because I came in thinking, oh, I'm good at math. It's natural to me. It'll just come to me. Okay, great. Then I didn't, so I wasn't taking action and studying. And then also, I said that I hated calculus. I said I hated it. I didn't like doing it. I didn't like studying it. So it was like two things. One, I came in with this like I don't need to study, and then the other was saying that I hated it. So I set myself up to get that result. I didn't put in the work, and when I did put in the work, I had no positive energy towards it. It was all negative energy. I was telling calculus, I don't want to do you. I don't want to do well, right? And so what I did was I went to OChem the next semester or the next year, and I was like, everyone says this is the hardest class. This is the one that everyone struggles with and everyone hates. I'm going to do the exact opposite I did with calculus. I'm going to study my ass off, and I'm going to tell myself I love it and it's interesting. I'm going to show up to office hours. I'm going to put in the work. Dude, I crushed that class. Not because I'm good at chemistry. I didn't even take the AP exam in high school. Like I got whatever, a C in high school on it. And like, but I went to college and I put in the work and I believed that I could do it if I did that. And I crushed it. I got like 115% on the final exam. The
Wow.
average was like a 50. Like absolutely blew out of the water. And I don't say it to be like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm so good at it. It was just that I put in the work. I studied for like 70 hours for the final. So, all of that to be said, you look, you learn, you adjust, you prove to yourself what's possible, and that was a big shift in my life. I think I hold on to the belief that I created during that semester studying for it, and it's incredible how that stacks up. And then that would loop right back to the idea of failing in the future. I've had years of those wins where now I'm like, dude, I'm unstoppable as long as I'm putting in the work.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that suffer with this kind of learned helplessness that people tell them like, oh, this class is tough. Oh, this is impossible. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, this is it's you shouldn't even try. Stuff like that. That's what holds us back because it tells us like what's happening, and then it goes to your mental status, and you're like, all right, there's no point in trying because it's already hard enough. I'm not gonna make it anyways because everyone else isn't. So you kind of put yourself in the shoes of others and say, I can't do that because they didn't, and that's how it affects you. Like for me, I'm totally different from you. I'm not like I've always had trouble with math, but hey, I'm gonna like recently like I have one of the hardest like math tests coming up for me in one of my classes because no one understands. We're doing trigonometry right now, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't know what's happening, and it's all confusing. But I told myself I was like, hey, what if I did really good on this test? Like, what if I just came out and like actually like tried a lot because I haven't really been trying as much as I should, and
Mm.
now that's like flipped in my brain like how people can perceive things like if you're having trouble like even getting started with something just cut out all the bullshit beliefs of others and just say to yourself, hey, I can do this because if I want to, I can, and there's no restrictions on me because I can do this as long as I can just put in the effort to do that. So as you mentioned, that's spot on.
Yeah, and like underlying all of that is an intention to get better. There's an intention to improve on that thing. There's an intention to develop your math skills or get a better score on that, right? It's like if people just don't care, like it's like, and here's the thing, like in terms of learned helplessness too, is it's like we think also that, oh, it's just easier not to care that much. It's just easier not to try that hard.
Hmm.
Like because I'm not going to do well anyway, so it'll just be easier for me to relax. But what happens when we do that? It becomes easier because we don't have to do the work as much. But what happens is we get into a loop of mental suffering. Well, I'm not good enough, or I don't do well in that, or I keep getting bad grades, and nothing ever works in my favor. Everything's so difficult. Like we get into this negative loop. And although it
Hmm.
might be physically easier because we don't have to exert this effort, we're getting caught in a loop, and that sends us into a negative momentum spiral of overthinking, getting into this that really deep into the I'm not good enough, and it creates a lot of different pieces. And so, another part on that learned helplessness is like you're learning it from someone based on their own belief of themselves.
Hmm.
And this could be anyone. It's our parents, it's our teachers, it's the government, it's our friends, and it's to no fault of anyone's real own. It's just like they're caught in their own belief systems. They don't believe it's possible, so your teacher doesn't think, oh, you could quit and you could do whatever and not go to college and make a lot of money because they didn't do that themselves.
Hmm.
So they're going to send their beliefs of themselves onto you, and if especially young kids, people in high school, people in college, get super caught up in that, then you're just soaking in the limiting belief of someone else, making it your own, and then manifesting that into your own reality. But underlying it all, man, the intention to say, yeah, okay, I got this score, but that doesn't define me. What defines me is how I react and how I move forward with it. And I want to grow and get better. And as long as you have that intention in your life, you're gonna do awesome things.
Hmm. Yeah, it's important to just give effort, man. It's really difficult for people to start though. Is when people are just at the bottom and they're looking up and they're like, "Oh my God, this mountain is huge. How am I gonna climb this mountain? How am I gonna actually be able to do this?" And but once you start putting one foot after the other and you just start going up and you're actually starting to make progress in it, you can't stop. It's really difficult to just like look at yourself and be like, "Oh, I haven't made any progress." If you put in the effort in anything in life, and this is a really big message to get across. If you put in the effort to get like anything you want in life, you're gonna be able to do it. Like I have you could say it's a high ego in a way, but I feel like if I wanted to make it to the NBA, and I put in the effort to make it to the NBA, I could be in the NBA. And that's just my belief. If you just put in the effort in anything and you're putting in a lot of effort and you really are passionate about it, you're going to most likely get it. Or you're gonna get close to getting it. It's
Dude,
inevitable.
for sure. And it all starts with you gotta, like you said, getting that first step out the door. It's step by step. It's one foot in front of the other. We get so caught up in like, oh, I wanna, okay, great. I'm gonna go to the NBA. I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna put the effort in. Okay, so I gotta wake up at 3 a.m. and I gotta shoot for 5 hours, and then I gotta get a workout in, and then I gotta go do laps, and then I
Yeah.
gotta play 1v1, and then like it's like all of this stuff. Okay, you're never gonna do any of that. Your habits are not set up for that in your life right now. We got to slowly start making change, especially when we don't have a great accountability structure for ourselves, right? When we don't have a coach that's like, just thinking in basketball, right? You have a coach that's pushing you, that's keeping you structured, that's like, get up today. You got to wake up. You told me that you're going to do this, right? Like having that, having a friend to go play with, all these things. But you gotta just start with the smallest little step. What is
Hmm.
one thing that I can do tomorrow that will get me 1% closer to the goal that I have? And this also comes into play in terms of like one of the things that I go over really first with my clients is purpose alignment, really connecting ourselves with like what our kind of reason for being is, what we desire in our life, but also how does that play into our unique skill sets? This is the concept of ikigai, right? What does the world need? What do you love? What can you get paid for? And what are you good at? And when you align those things with a life that's really compelling, that excites you, now we're creating this alignment between the two. And what happens is this is goes back in the beginning when I was talking about how it actually can be like effort's a lot easier when we're in this flow with life. So when we're in tune with all the things like that we love, that we're good at, the world needs, actually effort becomes a lot easier, and that taking that first step's easier because it's exciting and it feels like it's a part of you. For me, if I said like I want to be the next LeBron James, again, I believe that I could get probably pretty close. I'm not 6'8" and I'm not
Yeah.
250 pounds, and like there's some of those limits, but that's an important piece is like that's not what I'm good at. I don't love basketball. Does the world need me to be great at basketball right now? Nah, not really quite, right? And like, could I get paid for it? Yeah. But so then right there, that allows me to say, okay, so then what am I good at? What does the world need? And I focus on that. And we all have a unique part, sense of purpose, a unique reason that we're here, a unique skill set, and all that. And so when we get in alignment with that, that's what the world needs. The world needs our authentic self, and then we put a foot forward and we do the work to get there. But again, it's a more fluid effort because it feels good, it feels aligned with what we're supposed to be doing. And I think that's a big part that people miss because it's so hard to create that alignment in our life without someone, I think, to really help you and without introspection and intention.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And another point that you brought up, and this is just ringing in my head right now, is visualizing yourself in that successful place, in where you want to be, and what you want to be doing. Visualizing and manifestation in that is really important. And it's interesting because I don't really see many people talk about like visualization and just kind of like manifesting your future in a way or certain events, because a lot of people think it's this magical thing where it's like zodiac signs and stuff like that. It really isn't. It's more of just visualizing yourself and kind of making yourself realize like, hey, this is actually like a norm. Like this is actually something that can happen. Like it's making you aware like it's not impossible. It's actually a possible thing to happen. So to the people that don't know, could you explain a little bit about manifestation? Because I think I saw a video of yours about it. It was really good.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think I agree. Manifestation is this like woo woo term. It's like, oh, that's just magic. That's a bunch of
Yeah.
BS. But it's so much simpler than that. It's really just an alignment of your beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. And they're all aligned towards the thing that you desire, towards your master vision, towards what your sense of purpose is. And when we create that alignment, we've got clarity of what we want, we got clarity of what excites us and what we desire, and then we have a belief system that allows us to believe that that's possible for ourselves, and we have that ability. And then we have thoughts that we tune in our thoughts to just focusing on having that thing. We focus on the process that we need to actually do to get there, and then we create all of these beautiful feelings within ourselves, the feelings that we're already there. What's it going to feel like when I have that thing? What does it feel like right now to have that? And then that drives our actions, and then our actions drive our results. So if we get into that alignment, it's like that's what manifesting is. It doesn't just poof out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You bring it from like that this ether, from the infinite potential that it is in this sense of like nowhereness, but you bring it in like you're pulling it through your actions that are in alignment. And so what visualization really does is, all of our thoughts have energy to them. Each little thought is just a firing of neurons, and it's got an energetic signal. And that's sending out energy into the universe, into the space around you, into the people around you. But what's really creating the power? So thoughts are like, think that I wish I could give credit to the person who said that. It might be Aaron Abke on that I saw on his YouTube video, but like think about thoughts as a jet. So we got a jet that's sitting on the runway. That's the thought. And then what happens is our emotions, the feelings behind them, is the jet fuel. That's what allows that thing to take off and actually do something, right? And so when we have a thought about something, what we feel about it is what's going to bring that thought into life. It's how that the external or the feeling that we have, whatever, is going to reflect from that thought. And so, we could think about the future and we feel negative and fearful about it. Well, great. Now that we're going to get whatever that outcome is because that fuel is going to take us to that place. Or we could think about our future and we get really excited about it. We feel like we have it now. We're so grateful for it. We love it. We're giving to others. We're in alignment. Now that's putting the jet fuel in it and it's going to take us in that direction. So visualization is super simple. It's just sitting down with a clear picture of what you desire in your life and feeling it now. Thinking the thoughts, feeling the feelings, smelling the smells, touching the things. Like, what are all the actual feelings? And that's going to drive us into the thoughts. It's going to help reinforce our belief systems. We take action, we get results. It's not this woo-woo thing. There's an energetic side to it, but it's about pulling it in through action and getting ourselves in alignment.
Hmm. There is a really, really cool thing that is about manifestation that I saw from, I think he recently, it was during the NBA dunk contest. I'm trying to remember his name. I think it was Mick Lung or something.
Mm.
But he won the dunk contest. He was from G League and just brought up for the NBA pretty much only for the dunk contest because he was such a good dunker, and
Mm.
won the whole contest. And at the end, he said, "I've just been manifesting this moment for such a long time." And you could just tell like he had like almost no emotion because he just he felt like he was already there. Like he already
Mm.
experienced that moment and he's already used to it kind of. So it was really cool to see to kind of watch that and see how he just reacted to winning the whole thing easily with without like not even any competition. It was nuts, but it really shows you the power of kind of just manifesting your beliefs into the experiences that you'll have during that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's like you develop when you do it enough, you develop a sense of knowing. It's
Yeah.
like, and then you're just not surprised when it happens because you were like, I knew this was gonna happen. I expected it to happen. I planned for this. You don't realize like a year ago, I already knew this was coming.
Mhm.
What's all the big surprise, guys? Yeah, I won. Like, and it's so powerful. And I think the big thing that people go wrong with the manifesting is like when then you say it's impossible. Well, as soon as you say it's not possible, you're never going to be able to actually bring those things into life because you have the doubts, you have the fear, you have the doubts. The real key. You're saying in your head, this doesn't work. It's not going to happen. All of those thoughts have energy. Those are getting sent out. The universe is a mirror. It responds. It says, "Oh, well, you keep saying it's not going to happen, so okay, great, it won't happen." And it's manifesting this idea of law of attraction. It's a practice. You start really small. You start just working your best that you can. It's not like, I can't just manifest. So I want a Lambo tomorrow. I'm gonna think all these thoughts tonight, and then it's gonna show up tomorrow or in a month because there's that's like it's a big thing to like believe like, oh, I got to make all this money, I got to do all these things, I don't have any alignment there, so there's all going to be that doubt. But something I heard recently, it was actually in a, if you've heard of the book The Secret by Rhonda Burns. It was like I was reading it, it's like a master class on The Secret. And she talks about how, when we think about the universe has infinite potential in it, right? And there's like this field of infiniteness. And we just, through our actions and our thoughts and our feelings, we bring those things, we pull them from the field. And it's like as I said earlier too, this field is unimaginably big. When we think about the universe in the physical realm, it's 150 billion light years across, right? It's so massive. And then we think about, making $1 million. Like, oh, that's so hard. That's good. I got to do all this work. It's going to take me forever, right? All these beliefs about it. But like to the realm of infinite possibility, $1 million is like a fraction of a little period on a page that you're reading. It's nothing. It's
Hmm.
just like, and so it just like really, it's just you getting into alignment with believing, oh yeah, it is nothing. I could totally make this happen overnight. But it's all of our perceptions, as we've gone and said before. It's the perceptions that we have $1 million is hard. It takes a while. I got to do all these things. Not denying that some of those things are true, but I think we have so much beliefs about it that that then holds us back from achieving these cool things.
Hmm. Yeah, it's as we were talking about before, the beliefs that are put on ourselves, not only from ourselves but from others, makes it almost impossible because
Mm.
that's your mindset going into it. That's what you're believing. So, to advice to the people, just if you have a goal, if you have a passion, and this is just so easily said than done, but this is just like one of the biggest advices that I've always thought about. Like, it's so difficult to wrap in my brain, like why wouldn't you try and do this? If you have any dream in the world, any passion, whatever it is, if you wanted to be weird example, but if you want to be a garbage man, if you just put in the work to be a garbage man, you could do it if that's your passion. But it's just get rid of the ceiling. There is no ceiling. The sky's the limit. That's all it is.
Big time. And surround yourself with people that
Mm,
think that same way, that think that they can make great things happen. Because if you're surrounding yourself with friends and family that's all like, oh, woe is me, this isn't possible, life sucks, nothing ever comes from it, and you know what I do, it's like you're soaking that energy in every time you interact with them. You got to start being intentional about what you desire in your life, and you got to start stepping away from those relationships and stepping into really empowering ones. And if you can't do it in person, do it on social media, right?
yeah.
Go through your follow who you're following and nix 1,000 of those people. I just did this recently, like 1,000 people from high school. Nothing bad with them, like nothing against these people, but like, what was I following them for? Were they bringing like an inspiration into my life? Are they doing exciting things? And like, can I even put all my attention on all of those people? And when I do, what is my like what's the quality of my attention? Do I look at this person? Do I feel like I'm comparing myself? Do I feel like I'm getting drained of energy? Like, cultivate our lives and our environment in a way that sets you up for success. And that's going to be a big thing, is going to be the people you're spending time with. We're like these and are huge energy magnifiers. And if you're surrounding yourself with people that are really low in energy and super negative, you're going to feel that.
Hmm. Yeah, it's important to be in the environment that will shape your future.
Yeah.
And if you're in the environment with people that, aren't doing you any good, then what's the point of even being there? So it's important, man. And yeah, just chasing your dreams. It's all it is. But Ben, it has been a pleasure, man, having you on. And do you have any last message if you want to shout out your socials or anything?
Big time, man. Appreciate you taking the time to sit down and do this.
Right.
It's exciting, and it's cool to see young people that are excited about this and spreading this knowledge. So I think yeah, my IG, it's Ben Clark 10. I'm really active on IG. I do my best to answer DMs as they come in. I'm on Instagram, Ben Clark dot or I mean TikTok, Ben Clark dot one. But IG is going to be the place to go if you're really trying to connect. And just kind of like a last message to anyone that's out here that's really trying to create more in their lives. Set an intention. Just get clear on what you want. Set an intention for growth and committing to get 1% better every day. Don't think that it all has to change overnight. 1% better every day compounds on itself. You'll do really great things a lot quicker than you think if you focus on that aspect. So start small, and it's possible. Make it happen.
Mm-hmm. I agree, man. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Make sure you guys go follow him. If you want to learn more about just improving your life, maybe go check out his course as well. And yeah, I hope to see you guys soon this upcoming week. I got a lot planned, by the way. I got a lot planned for this week. So stay tuned. It's going to be really exciting. And it's been a pleasure. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Later.